where I live,
yeah.
it's like, it doesn't seem like people really notice the Bronx River, and sometimes it's like really skinny and shallow and there's no way to get to it.
Yeah. You know, my experience has been that there are a lot of people in Westchester County and the various towns in Westchester County that love the Bronx River. We hear from people all the time who are it plays a very important part in their lives. And when there was a spill of oil in the river in one of the upstream communities, I want to say Scarsdale, but I don't remember for sure. I think it was Bronxville or Scarsdale. It was reported very fast by a person who was a runner in that area, and there was a lot of public attention paid to that. So I thought it was really a sign that there are a lot of people who really care about the river.
I wouldn't really know.
Yeah.
There's just no signs or anything saying Bronx River.
Well, I think you are pointing, on the other hand, there is not a very strong, organized effort that's really oriented towards protecting and improving the qualities of the river throughout the full river watershed. We would like for there to be, and we would like to play a role in that. And you know, there is some, and I'll tell you one other activity that goes on. The Bronx River, it's got a long name, Bronx River Parkway Reservation Conservancy, sometimes called the Bronx River Conservancy, sponsors a vine cutter group. And volunteers get out in their right season twice a month, I think, and go out and they cut vines, because the vines, the sort of invasive vines, are overtaking trees along the river, and they get a lot of volunteers out there. But in terms of real policy advocacy, there's not enough around the Bronx River. There has been some, and I know people do care, but in terms of really kind of coming together as a force together, I think really the Bronx is better known for that.
Does the Alliance work with Westchester?
Yes, we do.
The amount of people involved?
Well, in terms of in terms of numbers, I don't have them off the top of my head, but we could give them to you. I just was hearing our volunteer coordinator yesterday saying to somebody, he was just talking on the phone, and I heard him saying something about, oh, we have about 1,000 volunteers a month, and I really wanted to get back to him and say, really? I didn't know. I didn't know it was that high, but it might be getting that high, because lately the numbers have been really high.
In the warmer seasons.
Yes, yeah, primarily warmer season, although it's amazing you can do some good work in the fall and the winter. For example, we brought people out in the late winter to the concrete plant park because we have had a dumping problem along the banks of the river at the concrete plant park. And the best time to get at that material was before everything grew up in the summertime. So people were out there in some pretty cold weather.
Was that last winter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When was the dumping problem? That happened last year?
It's still of concern to us. We have dumping happening along and near Westchester Avenue, particularly on the bank of the river across from the concrete plant park.
Is it illegal dumping?
All dumping is illegal. Yes, it's illegal dumping.
Or else they might give it a better name.
Right. It's kind of good to have that name stick, you know? Let's not come up with a fancy new name for it. Let's call it for what it is.
Has the river been used as a classroom?
Oh, yes, a lot. Yeah. We have a wonderful education program. And the purpose of our education program basically is to allow teachers and after-school group leaders to find ways to use the river as a classroom. We have a really good guide to doing that with a whole bunch of, it gives information about a whole bunch of different places along the river, what you could be doing in that location, how to get to that location, what kind of lessons you could teach there, what kind of age groups, and it's an insider's guide to the Bronx River. And our education director works with groups, and particularly with teachers and after-school groups, youth groups, all the time, helping to facilitate their ability to do that. For example, on Saturday, he was out with a group of teachers of American history who wanted to focus on the Bronx River as a topic of history.
Yeah.
What could be better? Look at West Farms, just for example. You know, you could take the Bronx's history, New York City's history, all the way back to the beaver trade, to the early mills, to the early settlers, you know, and all the way through till now. And you know, he said it was a fabulous group of teachers.
But there's a lot of ecological things to learn.
There's a lot of ecological things to learn, but it's not the only way you can use the river as a classroom. But there is, yeah. You can study geology, you can study ecology, biology, chemistry, math. Damien was actually a math teacher, our education director. We've had a Manhattan College professor who brought his students out to write journals on the river.
Is there fish in the river?
Yes, and I'm glad you're asking me, because there are more than 40 species of fish in the river, and people do some great fishing for blues in season. But also, what we're most excited about is that we have reintroduced alewife herring to the river. Now, this is another species that disappeared when the dams went in, because alewife herring are like salmon. They live there, they spawn up in a freshwater river. They're born there. They go out to sea for their adult lives. They come back to their home waters, where their birth waters, to spawn. And then they actually go back out to sea, and they'll come back each season for a few years to spawn. So alewife herring have not been able to be in the river in the freshwater segment since the dam, so for hundreds of years. And working with the Natural Resources Group at the Parks Department, we have helped with the re-entry of alewife herring. They were brought in from a creek in Connecticut, put up into the freshwater segment of the river in the Bronx Zoo area, actually. They had their babies, the adults left, the babies left. Now the babies are coming back. And what we need to do is put in a fish ladder alongside the dam so they can make it back upriver. And we're going to start installing the first fish ladder at the most downstream dam beginning next year.
What's a fish ladder?
Fish ladder is, it's kind of like stair steps that these fish can jump a little, but they can't jump, you know, like that. So the rushing water attracts them, this kind of fish and some other kinds of fish as well, and they'll go up the stair step, up to beyond and get upstream of the dam.
Okay, but how do fish in general get into the river? Are there like streams? Like, I mean, how do
Yes, always. I mean, we have the conditions that are conducive to some kinds of fish. And, you know, the river's had fish in it probably for all time, although for much of that time it could only have been fish that can handle really dirty conditions. And now, like with alewife herring, it takes a little better conditions and we're getting them. So, that's a great question. I mean, how do fish get moved from one region to another? Sometimes it's via the ocean and the estuaries. But I imagine, I don't know. What a great question.
I have to visit the north part of the whole thing, actually.
Yeah. And you want to get downstream too. If you haven't seen the estuary, you want to see that, because it's a very different look and feel. Have you been to the concrete planetary thing? Yeah. And you're going to want to. This, by the way, this is West Farms.
Can you show this?
Oh, yeah. This is West Farms. So you have a chance to see what a really urban river looks like. Convenient to the subway and also a slice of nature. So
there's trains and highways that run along the river. Isn't that polluting the river with gasoline runoff? Or is it not a big deal?
Not a big deal. I think the roadways are much more a source of pollution than the trains are.
Oh, but the roadways.
For the river. Oh yes, the roadways, yes. And roadways, oftentimes the runoff from the roadway does find its way to the river without a lot of filtering. And one of the things that we do want to be doing, try to do, is create natural systems that can filter the runoff from roads.
Oh, yeah?
We also have some issues with salt, because the roads are salted in the wintertime. If you add salt to a freshwater river, or you add a lot of salt to any river, whatever stage it's at, then you're changing the conditions. It's not good for the wildlife. And look, Shannon, this is another park you really should visit. This is the concrete plant park that I mentioned. And you can see, it once was a concrete plant. We left these old silos in place so they make great sculptural elements. And it's also just got beautiful expanses of green. It's a great place to go into the river for canoeing. We lead many canoe trips from here. Youth Ministries for Peace and Justice also leads some canoe trips there. And as you can see, this really was, you know, one of the inspirations for the City Parks Department to be developing practices for the sustainability of parks.
Do you think there's any community that particularly appreciates the work that has been done around the river?
We get compliments and appreciative comments from people all along the river. Our crew, which is working along the river, and then you saw, I met a couple of them on Saturday. They work up and down the river, and they'll have people coming up to them and just saying thank you regularly in any part of the river. And also saying, can I help?
Yeah.
Can I do this too? So I would have a hard time picking a particular neighborhood. Now, our results are most dramatic in places like along the concrete plant park, because this is, you know, just think what this was. This was a yard of concrete, and now it's a yard of green. So it's most dramatic. But I think the appreciation, I think, is all up and down.
Do you think that those missing links will ever be linked?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I absolutely do think so.
Yeah?
You just wouldn't want to let that go undone. It'll take time. It's not an easy task.
Do you think more people then would come to appreciate the river if there were paths?
Well, yeah, look at you. You know, there you are living, you live near Fleetwood, right?
I live where one of the missing links is.
Right. And when you say, you know, that there don't seem to be any paths there, no signs there, nobody seems to be going to the river, I think that would make a lot of people weep to hear that, because not far from there, people really are enjoying the Bronx River as a real kind of tranquil respite, you know? And because you don't have a good, clear, connective path to that, you don't get any of the benefit of that where you live. And so that is what the benefit is in connecting these links. Plus, there's something in people that loves connectivity, that loves to be able to go, you know, from one place to another. I think that's why greenways are becoming so popular. And with the rise in bicycling, too, becoming so popular. Just as a way to get from one place to another. If, you know, if the park is nice, it's all the nicer if you can get from one park to another, preferably traveling via a park, you know? So I think the desire is very strong for it, and the missing link in Yonkers that would go right through Fleetwood is mostly funded already, just in a very simple fashion. There is a federal grant that was given back in the early 2000s, and it needs matching dollars from the city of Yonkers and from Westchester County. And I think the interest is there to do that, to put that matching money together with the main grant and use it and spend it before it's lost. Because now that's getting to be very old. The federal grant that's 10 years old, if we don't spend it, soon we'll lose it.
Do you have an idea when that deadline is?
No, we're actually trying to find out.
Okay.
Because we're kind of looking nervously at the clock.
I just thought of this, like, two-part question just came to mind.
Yeah.
Are there any particular people in office that are involved right now that are really like heroes? And also, does the Alliance work with Plan YC?
Yeah. Yes, well, I mentioned one particular hero is Congressman Jose Serrano. He really saw from very early on that the river could really be a source of revitalization.
Is he a current congressman?
Yes, yes. 16th Congressional District. He He is the congressman for one of the lowest income congressional districts in the whole country. And he spotted that the Bronx River could be a real source of community revitalization. Ecological, environmental, yes, but also in all respects for the community. He's so got that, and he's put a lot of resources to it over a long period of time, and he gets it. And so I would really have to pick him out in particular. All the city council members that are along the river have supported funding for the river and supported projects along the river. The borough president, Ruben Diaz, has been very supportive of projects along the river. We're working on a link in New York City to complete a project that's been designed, but we ran into some problems in finishing and actually getting a bridge across the Amtrak line. And the full delegation of state assemblymen and state senators from the Bronx all signed on to a letter urging action on that. So the support is quite good from elected officials in general. Now in Westchester County, there's also been good congressional support for work on the Bronx River. Congresswoman Nita Lowey has been a supporter. We're encouraged in Yonkers by the fact that I think that the new mayor, Mayor Spano, has a real interest in trying to get this link through. I'm not close enough to that situation to be able to speak for him in any kind of way.
Maybe I'll ask him.
Yes, but you could ask him. Yeah, I think that, and the City Council President, Chuck Lesnick, has also, really indicated support, so.
And Plan YC?
Oh, and Plan YC. Yes, we are, I'd say we're sort of the embodiment of Plan YC's goals. And we're particularly excited that the most recent big development of Plan YC has been around creating green infrastructure in New York City. That's ways in which you capture stormwater so that it sinks into the ground instead of going into combined sewer outfalls which pollute the river. And we've been huge advocates for green infrastructure.
When you capture stormwater, where do you put it?
You let it sink into the ground slowly.
You just talked to me like over there.
I'm imagining a little rain garden right here. You just let it sink into the ground. What happens in a river, especially an urban river like the Bronx River, that is very, it's been very straightened over the years. Rainwater, when it hits, just goes through it very fast. When you've got a lot of rainwater coming all at once and it's sheeting across the ground, it's picking up dirt as it goes. And then...
Sorry, I don't know what that was. It's a tiny worm thing.
Yeah, a little like inchworm kind of thing, a little caterpillar. Not so fun. Yeah, there could be more of these trees.
So maybe. Basically it's picking up stuff.
It picks up dirt, and then as it goes down the river in a flood, it deposits that dirt. So you get what you're seeing up near where you live. You're getting a river that hardly looks like a river. That's very, it's just full of dirt because it's been filling in. And instead of a slow, steady amount of water, you're getting water that goes through very fast and leaves all the dirt built up in the base of the river or on the river banks.
This will have an impact on fish.
Yes, it's poor. It makes for poor habitat for the fish. Fish need oxygen in the water, and some fish need pretty clear water. So yes, it has an impact on the fish. And if you have an impact on the fish, you have an impact on the birds. It has an impact on the insects. If you have an impact on the insects, you have an impact on the fish. And all the other animals that would eat them.
Okay, thank you.